As soon as she had done so, the queen clutched her throat as if she were choking. The dungeon seemed to spin crazily around her, and the powerful wind sprang up, rustling her robes and hair as if she were in the midst of a hurricane.
Storybugs!
Hello and welcome to Storytime. Thank you for joining me. We're going to read Chapter 7 of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, adapted from the film by Jim Rossi, illustrated by Fernando Guel and Fred Marvin. And the dwarves, I think we left them where they were eating their supper with Snow White. Let's go to the next chapter. Ooh, the Wicked Queen. Chapter 7. Back at the castle, the queen was once again consulting her magic mirror. But as she waited calmly for the expected reply, it said instead, "Over the 7 jeweled hills, beyond the 7th fall, in the cottage of the 7 dwarves, dwells Snow White, fairest one of all." Shocked and outraged, the evil queen realized that she had been tricked. Snow White was still alive. The huntsman had not brought back Snow White's heart in the box, but that of a forest animal. The queen immediately began to plot a way to put an end to Snow White on her own. "I'll go to the dwarf's cottage myself," she muttered, "in disguise so complete no one will ever suspect it's me." She swept down a flight of stone steps in her deep, dark dungeon. As the queen made her way across the dingy chamber, scurrying rats squealed and ran for cover. I'll show you the picture. Spiders, beetles, and a host of other crawling things crept away at the sight of the evil queen. The only creature that didn't move was the queen's pet raven, who watched her approach with unblinking eyes and an evil expression to match her own. But the queen took no notice of these things. She went straight to her book of black magic and flipped through its pages until she found what she wanted. "Ah," she murmured, "a peddler's disguise. Perfect." She went over to a table cluttered with vials and beakers filled with all sorts of bubbling, smoking liquids. She selected one beaker and poured a steaming green liquid into a large goblet. "First, some mummy dust to make me old," she said, as she sprinkled a fine gray powder into the glass. "To shroud my clothes, the black of night." She added a drop of black liquid. "To age my voice, a drop of crow's blood." Then a red ruby drop was added to the brew. The queen continued mixing her potion until she was satisfied that she had done everything exactly right. When she was finished, she held the goblet before her. The brew bubbled and hissed and spilled over the rim of the glass. She smiled grimly, and then with one quick motion she swallowed the foul liquid. As soon as she had done so, the queen clutched her throat as if she were choking. The dungeon seemed to spin crazily around her, and the powerful wind sprang up, rustling her robes and hair as if she were in the midst of a hurricane. The queen moaned as she shook violently and then crumbled over as if a powerful hand were squeezing the youth from her body. And as she quivered in the grips of the magic potion, her lustrous black hair began turning a dingy white, and her smooth face started to fold into hideous wrinkles. Her long, beautiful fingers twisted into claw-like talons, and her elegant robe changed color and shape until it was no more than a faded black rag. Suddenly, a flash of brilliant green light filled the dungeon, and when it was gone, an old, haggard witch stood in place of the once beautiful queen. She shrieked in both triumph and agony as the awful transformation reached its final stage. The witch glanced in a mirror and cackled. "Yes, a perfect disguise," she croaked, and hobbled over to her book of spells once more. "And now," she hissed, "I must plan a special sort of death for one so fair. What shall it be?" The queen flipped through the pages until she stopped and cried, "Ah, yes, perfect! A poisoned apple." She read the spell aloud as her gnarled fingers traced the words. "One taste of the poisoned apple, and the victim's eyes will close forever in the sleeping death." The old hag threw back her head and laughed long and loud, the sound echoing through the deep, dark dungeon like the shrieks of 100 black crows. And that's where we leave for the next chapter. That was a spooky chapter, huh? All the wicked things the queen is preparing for. Well, I hope you guys come back and read chapter 8 with me, and I'll see you next time. If you guys enjoyed reading that story, would you please click subscribe down below? We read new stories just like this one every day, and we would love to let you know when there's a new story to listen to.